Total Recall, Good Luck Chuck, 8 Crazy Nights, the Total Recall remake. What do they all have in common? They each have a woman with 3 boobs. However, the warrior and the sorceress one-ups all of them. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the 4-breasted woman. The Warrior and the Sorceress is a 1984 action fantasy film from director John Broderick. The movie opens on Tatooine. I don't know, there's something off about this guy. The mysterious Cain with a K, not to be confused with Cain with a C, is wandering the desert. He sees smoke in the distance, and where there's smoke, there's stock footage. He follows the smoke to this town where a sexy sorceress is praising the suns. She notices Cain, and I noticed she's the Amazon Queen from Deathstalker 2. Cain sees a bunch of soldiers guarding the city's water supply. Carl, you spit in our water supply. What's wrong with you? He walks over to the soldiers who are itching for a fight. Before that happens, this old guy breaks it up. He takes Cain to a back alley and gives him some water. He then introduces himself.
I'm Prelate of Yamata.
You're what?
I'm Prelate of Yamata.
The old man explains 2 tyrants run the town, Zeg and Balkaz. They're both locked in a constant battle for control of the well. Cain then does some coke and decides he's going to use the tyrants against each other to make himself rich. He tells the minions of Balkaz that he's going to free the well from Zeg. Cain then squares off against the bad guys and takes them out fairly easily. With the well freed, the townspeople go mad. Then Balkaz's people get in on it. These women then try to be sexy. Woman, now is not the time for thottery. Fake Shemp 1 and 2 come to take Cain to Balkaz. Would it have killed him to wear pants? Zeg then has his men retake the well. These guys are really trying to get as much screen time as possible. Balkaz is hanging out in what I can only call the nudity room. Thankfully, he's clothed, but nobody else is. Balkaz consults with his lizard friend. Cain wants a bunch of money to lead Balkaz's men against Zeg's, and he gets it. Balkaz then loudly announces he's going to backstab him when he gets what he wants.
The Dark One will kill Zeg, and we will kill the Dark One.
Over in the Mortal Kombat throne room, Zeg is not happy. He demands to see the sword and the sorceress's tits. Apparently, he's holding the sorceress hostage and forcing her to make the sacred sword of Ura, which she refuses to do. He tries to use the sword and it's junk, so he sends her back to her cell. Cain then gets a bath. A sexy bath. The next day, there's a lot of rah-ing. Balkaz tries to get Cain to fight for him, but
I won't fight for anyone that plots against my life.
Cain walks off, and instead of fighting, the 2 sides call a truce. Here comes the slave caravan. The head of the Slee Stacks is selling the slaves to Balkaz. The lizard man Burko wants to buy the sorceress, but she's not for sale. Cain follows the slavers and sees that they were double-crossed and got poisoned water. The only one who didn't drink was Burgo, who is now out for revenge. Cain then goes to see Zeg. He really needs to up his security. Cain tells Zeg he's been set up by Balkaz. He then goes next door to loot the place. Cain easily knocks this guy out and takes the gold. Why is there a big treasure chest out in the open in the cafeteria? He somehow stealthily gets away, despite carrying his weight in gold coins. He hides in a prison cell and finds the nude sorceress. He knocks out a guard and rescues the sorceress. After that, he sends her to a safe area, and he heads back to Balkaz's secret back door and kidnaps the lizard. He then sells it to Zeg for 1,000 gold. The next day, Balkaz is upset because Lizzie's missing. Turns out the 2 sides each have something. They then decide it's best to trade.
Pimp smack your ass, bitch!
Cain and the old man hide. Cain finds a place underground where he can drain the well. Instead of getting out while he still can, he presses his luck by going to see Zeg again. Cain asks if he can check on their defenses. He goes to see the sorceress, who's guarded by the Protector. He tells the guard she escaped so he can rescue her. Just then, naughty tentacles!
Feed me Seymour.
Cain kills the monster and the guards return. He He tells him something killed the Guardian and the Sorceress escaped. Keith is the only one who doesn't believe Kane. The Sorceress makes it home to safety. The next day, they have a big meal, and Zeg calls in the stripper with the 4 titties. Okay, she's not exactly as seen on the cover, but it's still something. Something I can't show you. I have to say the 4 boobs really look like udders. I guess this makes her the queen of mommy milkers? She has some sort of tentacle attack that paralyzes Kane. The guards then beat him unmercifully. Kane wakes up feeling silly because he really pushed his luck. He escapes and hides under the slave caravan. He gets away, some villagers find him, and they bring him to the Sorceress, who still hasn't found clothes. With the well drying up, Zerg and Balkaz's forces clash in battle. They stop because they see Burgo's back for revenge. They decide to forge an alliance, but with Balkaz dead, Zeg is now the leader. Since Kane's the only guy even remotely heroic, the Sorceress forges the Sword of Uhura or something. The next day, the Scarecrows attack the well. Burgo takes over and kills Zeg. Kane wakes up to sexiness. He tests out the new sword, and it cuts through styrofoam like butter. Burgo and his slave army are now taking over the city. But Burgo announces he's changed his name to Barbecue and is the most powerful man in town. Kane then saunters into town for the final showdown. He fights off some baddies, and then his backups arrive. The two sides clash, and Kane makes short work of them with his magic sword. Burgo tries to get away, but Kane gets him with the backstab. Zeg's men get free and go after Kane. They grab him, and Keith takes the sword. Although, as it turns out, Kane had the power inside of him all along, and defeats Keith without needing the sword, which he takes back anyway. Now with the baddies dead, Kane fills up his water skins, gets a good look at the Sorceress's jumblies, and heads back out into the desert. The Warrior and the Sorceress was released on September 7th, 1984. In the late 70s, artist and production designer William Stout got a phone call from director John Broderick. Broderick asked Stout if he was familiar with John Norman's Sword and Sorcery series, Gore. He was familiar, but he really didn't care for them. However, that didn't matter. What mattered was that Broderick wanted Stout to come up with some key art, character designs, and whatnot in the style of Gore for a potential movie. Broderick liked what he came up with and asked him to write a screenplay for a Sword and Sorcery style film. During their discussions, Broderick mentioned he loved the film Yojimbo. Stout hadn't seen it, and as luck would have it, the film was playing at a local theater. He saw it and immediately fell in love with Kurosawa's work. He went off to write the screenplay using the bones of Yojimbo, but adding in more than enough changes so it wasn't just plagiarizing the story. He called the screenplay Dark Sword of Tor. Broderick liked it, but wanted him to make changes so that it was more like Yojimbo. Stout refused because he didn't want to steal Kurosawa's work. Stout rewrote the screenplay a few times, and it evolved into Kane of Dark Planet. Broderick took the screenplay and went to Roger Corman, but he didn't like Roger's offer, so he tried to see if he could make it elsewhere. Sometime later, Stout was talking with his friends over at Corman's New Horizons. He was shocked to discover that Roger was producing a film in Argentina called Kane of Dark Planet. He asked for a copy of the script and was infuriated to see that his name was removed. They told him Corman had just done a Sword and Sorcery film in Argentina and gave Broderick an $80,000 production budget to make this film and reuse the old sets and props. Stout was even more angry to discover that Broderick had taken his script and added in more bits from Yojimbo, taking it from homage and turning it into plagiarism, which was even more stupid because Kurosawa had successfully sued the makers of A Fistful of Dollars for plagiarism. Stout spoke to Corman, and when he discovered what happened, he paid Stout for the screenplay and deducted it from Broderick's director's fee. Corman changed the name of the film from Kane of Dark Planet to The Warrior and the Sorceress. If you want to read more on this story, William Stout has this and other tales on his website, williamstout.com. As for the Gore series, they eventually were adapted as Gore and Outlaw of Gore for canon. The movie used a lot of recycled material from Deathstalker, largely the sets, armor, and weapons. I don't like to think of this movie as reusing props. I think of it more as a movie that's taking place in the shared Deathstalker universe. They reused some footage from this in the Sword and Sorcery film Wizards of the Lost Kingdom 2. The movie pretty much had the same creative team that did 1983's Deathstalker. Both were produced by Frank K. Isaac, Hector Oliveira, Alejandro Cesa, and Roger Corman as an uncredited producer. Every one of them went on to work on other sword and sorcery films for Corman, like Barbarian Queen, Deathstalker 2, Amazons, Storm Quest, and Wizards of the Lost Kingdom. Anthony DeLongis, who played Keith, was the bald swordmaster Blade in 1987's Masters of the Universe. William Stout was the production designer on the film, and he was the one who designed the Blade character. Maria Sokas played the Sorceress. Like I said earlier, years after this, she was the Amazon Queen in Deathstalker 2. Although in that, she was pretty much the only woman with any lines who was able to keep all her clothes on. I guess that was to make up for how she was nude pretty much this entire film. This is one of many films that David Carradine did for Corman. Movies like Dune Warriors, which he did in the Philippines with the original Deathstalker, Rick Hill. The Warrior and the Sorceress is a fun take on Yojimbo. It's not as good as that one, but you know what Yojimbo doesn't have? You know it.